Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we're going to talk about something very important. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and talk about uh, donating if you feel like you can. I don't want anybody to put themselves out. It's a tough enough time for anybody. If you got bills to pay, pay those bills. Don't donate. But if you're able to and it won't put undue stress upon you, then please. I have a Coffee account and a Patreon account. The Coffee account allows you to make smaller payments or one-time payments, while the Patreon allows you to donate month to month. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump back into the video here. For the video we are looking at today, we are talking about more disenfranchisement attempts. You would think we're past the age of where they're trying to disenfranchise people, but no. No. And all that just means is trying to take away the right to vote from people. Because one thing they've been pushing hard is this SAVE Act, and it's not a good thing. We've got a couple of different versions pulled up here. This first one was introduced at the start of 2025. And just as a summary, it says, requires the individuals to provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections, which, on its face, doesn't sound bad. However, the devil's in the details. Specifically, the bill prohibits states from accepting and processing an application to register to vote in the federal election unless the applicant presents documentary proof of U.S. citizenship. The bill specifies what documents are considered acceptable proof of U.S. citizenship, such as identification that complies with the Real ID Act of 2005 that indicates U.S. citizenship, which was that stupid star thing they wanted you to put on your driver's license. And of course, I got it, so it's stupid, but yeah. Further, the bill prohibits states from registering an individual to vote in a federal election unless, at the time the individual applies to register to vote, the individual provides documentary proof of U.S. citizenship, and requires states to establish an alternative process under which the applicant may submit other evidence to demonstrate U.S. citizenship. Each state may take affirmative steps on an ongoing basis to ensure that only U.S. citizens are registered to vote, which shall include establishing a program to identify individuals who are not U.S. citizens using information applied by certain sources. And here's one of the stupidest things about this. Non-citizens can't register to vote. The way the registration and the polls are held now, there is only like a 0.0003% fraud. So minute, it's almost non-existent. Additionally, states must remove non-citizens from their official list of eligible voters. Yeah, but who are you claiming are non-citizens because, again, the system was already working amazing. The bill allows for the private right of action against the election official who registers an applicant to vote in a federal election who fails to present documentary proof of citizenship. The bill establishes criminal penalties for certain offenses, including registering an applicant to vote in a federal election who fails to present documentary proof of U.S. citizenship. Now, they don't say here exactly what can be U.S. citizenship other than the real ID on driver's license. But this was back at the beginning of 2025. Here's a newer bill that was issued back January 30th of 2026. Again, wanting documentary proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote and requires photo identification to vote in federal elections. Pretty common. You got your driver's license. This is, again, there was no fraud to begin with, pretty much. But we've got all these whiners and criers that are right-wing going, oh, there's fraud, there's non-citizens voting. No. That is absolute bunk. We have looked at all the voter rolls over and over, and it's usually minuscule, minute numbers that are almost non-existent. Further, the bill prohibits states from registering an individual to vote in a federal election unless at the time the individual applies to register, they provide you documentary proof of U.S. citizenship. You know, this is very much papers, please. Schnell, papers. But yeah. A lot of the same words. Now, let's dig in here. Go to Wikipedia first. Pretty balanced on what it usually cites. But yeah. Now, this is based on the HR 22. And for those who are curious, they do have more than just the summary here. Where is that list? Well, when it's in full, you can see, like, it has the full bill that you can click on and read. It's where I got the window shrunk down, but yeah. But yeah, like I said, they actually have introduced a number of these based on the same idea. Anyway, Wikipedia. Proposed a U.S. law that would amend the National Voter Registration Act of '93 to require documentary proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote. The bill's stated purpose is to prevent non-citizens from voting in federal elections, and the provisions defines documentary proof of U.S. citizenship. The valid documents for verifying citizenship, as stated by the bill, are one of the following: an enhanced driver's license which is a version of the real ID that indicates citizenship. It used to be you could just show driver's license. Yeah, I've lived here for a while. I'm a citizen. A lot of this has already been verified. Again, the system we had was working. But the whiny little crybabies, that is the right wing, can't stand the fact that their hate is not accepted as much as they want it to be. 2. A U.S. passport. How many people do you know that have a passport? How many people? You're not going to do passport unless you're doing international travel abroad. So that already is a definite red flag. An official U.S. military identification card. Okay, that can kind of work like a driver's license. Fine. It works just as well. A valid government-issued photo ID card that lists citizenship status. Well, I mean, isn't a driver's license with the real ID BS on it still a valid photo ID that makes it known what citizen you are? Or any other valid government-issued photo ID card together with evidence of birth as a U.S. citizen or naturalization, such as a U.S.-issued birth certificate, a naturalization certificate, or a consular report of birth abroad. This is the other big red flag. It is going to disenfranchise a lot of women who are married and taking their husband's name, and thus are no longer using the name they were born with. It will disenfranchise a number of trans people who have changed who they are from when they were originally born. Yeah. This number 2, number 5 are clear red flags and disenfranchisement articles. Because if you can cut almost half the population down, you have a better chance of being reelected. And like I said, the system we had before was working and working well. But because Republicans and right-wingers are little whiny, little, trying not to curse on this, whiny little bags of fecal matter, shall we say. Yeah, they're like, fraud, you gotta worry about fraud. Bullshit. Well, I just ended that. Okay, anyway. Yeah, non-enhanced driver's license or state ID cards, U.S. military ID cards, and tribal identification documents would not be sufficient alone, since they do not indicate citizenship status and can be issued to non-citizen legal residents of the United States. So that's even pushing out Native Americans. Tribal documentation. See, you can see how this is a horrid, horrid law. Let's see. Non-citizens voting in the federal elections have been proven to be extremely rare and is already illegal under Section 216 of the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996. So yeah, almost 30 years now. Yeah, it has been 30 years. And they're crying, no, the non-citizens vote. BS. Opponents of the bill argue that it is intended to suppress voter turnout, as voter registration forms already require driver's license numbers or the last four digits of the applicant's social security number in compliance with the Help America Vote Act, which registrars are required to use under HAVA to confirm eligibility through database maintained by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the Social Security Administration, and the U.S. Postal Service. Yeah, like I said, the system we had was working perfectly fine. But again, little crybabies on the right wing. No! Non-citizens voting! It's fraud! No, a lot of people just don't like Trump. You're going to have to get used to that. According to the U.S. Vote Foundation, the act would jeopardize voting registration access for U.S. military service members serving abroad and other U.S. citizen residents overseas. So, yeah, even though you can use a military ID card, if you're serving overseas, yeah, you're not going to be able to vote. Like I said, this is disenfranchisement. This is akin to the Jim Crow era poll taxes, the Jim Crow era literacy tests. You know, the stupid things that the racists would do to try to prevent the newly freed African Americans from voting. If you still believe democracy's not under threat because of Trump, I don't know what to tell you. Because you really have to be a special kind of stupid to believe it's not. But yeah. Like we said, number of bills like that, the SAVE Act, Save America Act, Make Elections Great Again Act, collectively they're all referred to as the SAVE Act suite of bills. And as we've already pointed out, it is already illegal for non-citizens to register and vote in federal or state elections, requiring documentary proof of American citizenship to register to vote in federal elections is unnecessary and seeks to divide us. And again, this is from LWV League of Women Voters. Yeah, they talk a lot about it. I've got information from the Bipartisan Policy Institute. Citizenship is already a requirement to vote, and instances of non-citizen voting is rare. Many eligible citizens don't have access to documentary proof of citizenship. There are better ways to verify citizenship that put the responsibility on government, not the voters, as it should be. The Save America Act could have unintended consequences for election officials and election administration. And the Save America Act needs more time and resources to be implemented properly. Yeah, but it goes over it there. From the Brennan Center for Justice, the new SAVE Act bills would still block millions of Americans from voting. Like I said, these are straight up disenfranchisement bills, like Jim Crow era type of bills that prevented African Americans from voting. From the League of Conservation Voters, the SAVE Act status, Congress takes up even worse anti-voter bills. And this is from the ACLU. Stop anti-voter bills now. But yeah. The fact is this. All this points to how bad the bill is. How much Republicans know Americans hate the current administration. And they're trying to rig the game. It's sickening, honestly. Again, how anyone can still support Trump and the Trump administration. Do you not have one single brain cell in your head? Or is it just so full of hatred or propaganda that you're unable to think? Because that's what it feels like. Honestly. But this video's went on long enough. We'll go ahead and end this here. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. And it can't just be random blog posts or tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy sites. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.